What's up, everybody? Happy Mindfulness Monday. It's Dr. Mel here, delaying 30 seconds because I know that if you're watching this live, you won't get the notification for probably another 15 seconds. So we just have fun in the first 30 seconds of this video. Now, here's what I gotta say. If you are watching this video later on either Facebook or if you're watching it on YouTube, because we put this out into different platforms after I record it. If you're watching this later, I really want to make sure that you are notified and you get the updates when I go live. So when you're in the Inspired Living community, you want to make sure that the notifications at the top are turned on. So that way you know when Michael and I go live or we post things in here if we have questions or we release different workshops that have a time stamp on it, you can see. Now, if you're tuning in on YouTube, then just make sure you hit the subscribe button and that way you know when I'm releasing all this great content because I have received a ton of really great feedback about this video. So we're gonna move forward and do part 2. Now, if you missed the last one, make sure that you scroll down or you go over to either my YouTube channel or in the Inspired Living community and click on Mindfulness Monday and you'll see a Mindfulness Monday that I did last week on how the body, mind, and nervous system store trauma, how trauma actually gets into our physiology. Now, many of you were really enlightened by this, and I really would just want to acknowledge you all for reaching out to me personally and sharing that it made a big impact on your life. Because I know when I first learned this, it too rocked me to my core. And so I know that feeling of when you have a paradigm shift where you're like, my mind is blown, we need some follow-up, right? So you understand that trauma is a perception, how it integrates into our body mind, holding it not only in the nervous system, but in the field around our nervous system. Now that you understand physiology, what do we do about it? How do we actually move forward and start to shift, letting go of that baggage and letting go of old stories and letting go of patterns? Now, of course, one of the ways is by doing body work, because as you've learned, when we are in a trauma experience, meaning we're perceiving more negatives and consequences and drawbacks than benefits, our brain and our prefrontal cortex checks out. Literally, physiologically, neurologically, it defaults. It sends different energetic resources, blood flow, all of that to different areas of the brain. Think of it as running a different program, right? If your nervous system is like a big, super living computer, if you're trying to run Excel and all of a sudden there's a virus on your computer, it needs to take that energy and resources and default to another program to deal with what is most important at the time. Right? Because thinking about what you're going to make for dinner and planning a date night with your partner in the moment of trauma is way less important. So we have to divert the energetic resources to turn on other programs because there's all different parts of your brain that deal and process all different parts of your body and all different parts of your life. Okay? So what do we do about it? One is doing body work, making sure, what's up, Steph? I don't get the notifications that who's here. So I think there's a delay. So just comment below that, say hello so I know that you're here, who's tuning in live, and that way I know who I'm speaking to because I care about speaking to humans and not just a computer screen. So body work. The memory is in our cells and our physiology. And so when you do any form of body work, whether it's working with me, Network Spinal Care, if it's massage, if it is fascial release, if it is, acupuncture, anything that helps your body start to feel, hi Milana, anything that helps, and Katie, all the amazing women here, anything that starts to help your body feel at ease and present time conscious. And that's really what the chiropractic adjustment does, is it brings your neurology into the now. And if you break down the word adjustment, meant in Latin is mind, an adjustment to the mind to get you centered and focused into the now so you can actually feel safe, come out of that fight or flight, come out of that stress physiology, and engage the rest of your brain into executive functioning. So anything that helps your body feel at ease, and number one thing is breath. So making sure that you're breathing appropriately. And listen, this is not to bash other forms of chiropractic or other forms of healing, but if your practitioners that you're working with are not watching your breathing, in your breathing patterns and your breathing waves, and they're just kind of like rub-a-dub-dub all over the place, I really want you to take a second look at that. So if you yourself are a body practitioner or you see other people, maybe other than me, they really need to be looking at your breath patterns, because if they're not, you can actually do more harm than good, right? Because any input into the nervous system creates processing. It's input, process, output. So we need to be watching breath patterns, okay? So number one is any body work that's gonna take into account breathing patterns, neurology patterns, and making sure that there's a pre and a post check, that the nervous system actually integrated the input you gave to the system, right? Not just going off of someone being like, oh, I feel better, but what about their function? Functionality will trump feeling, okay? And when you get someone that's functioning really well, of course, what follows is that they start to feel better too. So number one is any form of body work in which they're watching neurology and breath patterns. What's up, Samantha? Number two, and I really need to give credit where credit is due, and I think Samantha would know this as well, but I really need to give credit where credit is due. This has changed my life a ton. Any work with DeMartini, John DeMartini, I really encourage you to look at his work. This is where this comes from. And I personally work with a DeMartini coach on a bi-weekly basis. So I actually check in with my coach every other week to talk about things that are going on in my life and to clear my nervous system in this way. So I have to give credit where credit is due. I believe that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that there's a lot of people out there who are preaching and they're branding their things, but they don't actually give credit to where they learn these things. And I'm huge. Many of you have heard me talk about Donnie and my mentors. I feel like we need to acknowledge where we've come from, just like our ancestors. So John DeMartini, and I work with one of his coaches, Sam. Yeah, Katie and Sam. I know you guys know DeMartini's great. I wish he was more on Instagram, but he's not. I'm such an Instagram nerd. So when you come to realize that you have had a trauma in your life, for example, when this happened to me, this is how I process it, and that's why I am the way I am. And that is true, right? Because any of us who have dealt with maybe molestation, rape, trauma, murder, loss of a loved one, living with parents who didn't give you the love that you fully deserved, loss of a child dealing with health challenges. Again, anything that you perceive is more negative than positive, one, you need to acknowledge that and say, okay, when I was this age, this happened to me, okay? Now, here's the flip. And I've already talked with some of you personally about this, and this is not easy, because oftentimes if someone is not ready to do this work, they will go into victim mentality. So I'm not calling any of y'all out, but sometimes like it takes a lot to do this work. What's up, Mark? So what you want to do is this. You want to get a pen and a paper, and you want to look at the moments in your life that you are telling yourself a story. So my story was, because I was molested when I was 5 years old, I had issues with intimacy. And that's why I don't have a libido, and that's why I can't be intimate as much as other people want me to, right? That was my story. That was why maybe I couldn't be as intimate or vulnerable with my husband when we first honestly were married this year. Because I had this story, right? Like this happened to me, so that's why. And I'm not saying that that's not true, because yes, if you've had like sexual trauma, that will show up in that way, right? Because you're guarding yourself. You're literally, every time you go to be intimate, that memory can be triggered, right? And the point of all this is to not make the memories go away, but to change how you and your perception are processing the memories. And so the more you do this, the more you will actually shift the neurology and shift the dendritic connections and create new connections in your mind, where you start to see what happened to you. It wasn't something that happened to you. It was something that happened for you in the most divine moment possible. So go to that moment that you know is a trauma in your life. You're calling it a trauma because you don't see the gifts in it yet, okay? And you're noticing I'm holding the tone in this work very seriously because this is serious work that will change your effing life. Go to that moment, and when you're there, I want you to start to write down all of the benefits of that happening for you. Now, if you've never done this work, you can be like, what the fuck, Mel? Like, there's no benefit in me getting sexually molested. Like, that was awful. That was terrible. That shouldn't happen to anyone. You can go right back into victim mentality. And that's fine. If you want to stay there the rest of your life, that's fine. But if you want to make actual physiological, mental, emotional, spiritual transformation in your life and swallow your pride and your ego and live in a powerful way that whatever happens to you in your life is actually happening for you, then listen up, okay? Going to that moment. Because, let me back up a second. The universe is always balanced. Always. 100% of the time. Even though you may not see the balance, it is always balanced because that is the science of entropy, of syntropy, of chaos mathematics. That is literally physics 101. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's only transformed. So in our political culture right now, the polarities are so freaking strong, right? But it's balanced. It's hella balanced, right? Doesn't feel good, but it's balanced. Same thing with atoms. If we go down to molecules, for as many protons and neutrons, you have equal amount of electrons in a balanced atom. Now, when one of the electrons decides to pop off and be a little ion and do its own thing, there's a charge. There's a charge there. And so when your life is out of balance and you're not seeing the balance, you're charged, you're fired up, you're pissed at your mom for doing this, you're pissed at your babysitter, you're just angry at the world, and you walk through life that everyone's out to get you and everyone wants to fight you. That was my reality. That's why I got red cards in soccer. That's why I started playing rugby, because I found ways to try to channel that anger and balance it out. Now, having adrenaline coursing through your veins for majority of your life, your adrenals will get fatigued. Thanks, Katie. It's exhausting. It's freaking exhausting, okay? I'm surprised I didn't get any like bar fights in college. Anyway, back to the balance. So when you're thinking about these things, and this is never going to go away, by the way. You can do a ton of these, they call them breakthrough exercises. I like to call it from trauma to triumph exercise. I know if Samantha's still watching, Dr. Nima calls it the overview experience, or something very similar. So again, there's a lot of people out there doing different stuff like this. I'm gonna take a drink of my juice. Cheers to transformation, y'all. So stay with me. You start to write down all the benefits. So an example, for me, my molestation that happened to me taught me how to create boundaries. It taught me how to actually be in tune with my sexual side, even though I don't think that kids need to go through that to get in tune with their sexual side. It helped me because even though it happened multiple times, I was able to be in tune with that because that's what was happening. Like my genitalia was getting touched and I didn't give consent, but it helped me tune into that. And I'm being hella vulnerable today, all right? And I know many of you have said, thank you for sharing your story, because listen, 1 in 4 people have experienced molestation. 1 in 4 adults have experienced molestation as a child. 25% of people. Okay, so if me speaking my truth about this helps you discover yours, I'm very grateful for that. What's up, Marita? So you're supposed to write down all of the things. And when you hit a little blockage of like, I can't think of the benefit from this, then that's when you got to go deeper. Because when you hit those blockages, right, you've hit that threshold of what you know to be true. And we want to create even more truth behind it. We need to stretch ourselves. So for me, it took a while, but I want you to get to 50 benefits of the experience. Hey, Jessica. Get to 50 benefits of the experience that happened to you. So for me, what it's done throughout my life, from that moment on, what have been all the benefits of my life from this experience. So I'm more in tune with my sexuality, with my partner. I have healthy boundaries of my sexuality. I have learned how to embody more of the masculine and the feminine. I've also learned how to, because of my experience, I've done a hell of a lot of study about trauma. I've done a ton of study about the nervous system and sexual trauma. So I've literally probably purchased hundreds of dollars of books on this to be able to come here live and tune in with you and change lives. That is a massive benefit. Now, in that moment, did I know that this was going to be the trajectory of my life? Hell no. But I wouldn't change it. Now, just because I wouldn't change it doesn't mean that it hasn't caused pain. It doesn't mean that it hasn't caused consequences. It doesn't mean that it hasn't been sometimes really hard. And I see all the ways that it has served me. I was talking to one of my practice members today, and we're working through a lot of deep stuff. And I said, look, I want you to shift your narrative right now, because I notice when you talk about the past, you talk about things happening to you. I want you to shift that and say, everything in my life is happening for me. Everything in my life is happening for me. Everything in my life is here to serve me. And everything in my life has a lesson. And there's blessings in every challenge. There's a lesson in every letdown. And there's breakthroughs in every breakdown. Everything is balanced. And this exercise that I'm teaching you will help you find it faster. Now, does that mean I don't deal with challenges in my life? Absolutely not. But when challenges arise in my life, what I have discovered and learned is, because of the exercises and literally sitting down, I want you to sit down and write them out, because when you write things out, it changes the neurology in your brain. It changes the neurological wiring in your brain. Through doing this over and over and over again, this breakthrough experience, trauma to triumph experience exercise, you will be able, because you've created those new neural pathways, think of it, if you've done it over and over and over and over again, that pathway is way more clear. Similar to when you drive home from work to your house, you know exactly how to get there. You almost go into autopilot, right? You don't even realize, like, oh shit, I didn't realize like there's a stoplight there. I've done this so many times. Same thing. We have to train our neurons to find the lesson, to find the benefit. So if you can do this pick 3 different areas of your life. Like, this happened to me when I was 6, this happened to me when I was 10, and this happened to me when I was last year, 2020. Take your pick. You got a lot to pick from 2020. How has 2020 served you? And again, this is not to discredit that there's also been a lot of challenge and heartache and things that I don't agree with in the world. But my point with this is, the more you can find the balance of the universe, the more you can see the balance and take the bigger picture, the more at ease you'll feel, the less charged, the less you'll actually feel the charge and the polarities, and the more aligned you'll be. And that's the type of leadership, and those are the type of people I believe that we need right now in our culture. We need leaders who are aligned and can navigate the polarities and can navigate the different perceptions of the world and invite one side of the polarity to maybe consider what's happening on the other side, and vice versa, right? I mean, we've seen that. It doesn't matter necessarily who you voted for in the last 4 years, and even me saying that might trigger you, but what matters is the energetics of leadership. How are our leaders dealing with polarity? Are they fueling it and trying to add more hate? Or are they actually considerate of all sides? Now, we're human, we have an ego, and we have to choose things, right? We have to take a stand on something, because that's just, polarities are part of life. And what would it look like for you as a leader? What would it look like to have leaders on platforms that were less charged and more aligned and balanced and centered? That's a world that I'm trying to create. And that's a world that I want you all to create for yourselves, because the less charged you are, and this comes down to your DNA, this comes down to your physiology, this comes down to your cells. The less charged and acidic your system is, you're going to be healthier. Literally, when I did this work for the first time, and it's not about weight loss, but I just want to share with you, when went through this exercise for the first time with one of my other mentors, Alok Trivedi, I literally was shaking. I was crying. I was having like we call it a trauma response, a somatic experiencing response. I was completing this loop that when the experience happened to me when I was younger, I went into freeze mode, right? Like my body froze. And literally, this was last summer. I was shaking. I was sweating because he held the space for me. He said, go there. Here's another part of this too, by the way. So you have your list of 50. I want you to get to 50 benefits of this experience. And in that moment that this thing is happening in your world, who or what was there for you to support you? In a moment of challenge, every single time there's a moment of challenge in your life, there's an equal and opposite support system. Again, because the universe is balanced. So every time you feel challenged, there is someone or something there to provide support. So for me, when I disassociated from the challenge, guess where I went? I went to spirit. People call it God, people call it whatever you want to call it, universal spirit. I went to spirit. And so for me, the way that I balance the chaos in the world, and this is people who have found such like grace through religion. That's not to judge religion. That's what helps them feel balanced. We should stop judging that. Unless they're judging you, then that's a different story. But for me, it's spirit. So the way that I like to navigate chaos and challenges is slowing down and pausing and breathing and meditating. And I literally, like what I do, what helps me best is I go to that bigger picture and I almost like take this look down on the planet and I just breathe in the planet. And for me, it's like, okay, everything's working out for me. Like I have this spirit there to support me. And I would say I probably went a little bit to my mom. So again, when there's a challenge, we will, our system will, in the back of our mind, go to like, oh, my mom was right there supporting me. Even though she wasn't there physically, she was there. I know I could go to her. Or maybe it was my dad or my brother. Some of you I know personally, if it was a friend that you could go and reside in and share with them all of your darkness, right? It's always balanced. So it's the second part of this is who is there for you? Who or what was there for you in a moment of challenge? And you'll start to realize this. Anytime you feel challenged, there's something right there to support you because it's balanced. And the more that you do this, what I have found is you attract less challenges because you don't perceive them as challenges anymore. Your energy changes, your neurology changes, your vibration changes. And in turn, I believe that when we're energetically aligned, that impacts the entire planet, that impacts the globe. And we all know, I gotta check my time here, I got a call in 4 minutes. This has been a deep, I hope, serving Mindfulness Monday. Let me know, comment below if this is like resonating. And this is something that I want to continue to do. This is what I'll be going over further in our Mastermind series of 2021. This one we're gonna be talking about probably in May, if not July. So I have all of the dates set. If you follow us on Instagram, Inspire Life Chiropractic Center and myself, there's going to be 4 different masterminds. So the first one in February is business mastery and entrepreneurship, mindset, all of that. And then I'm thinking in May or July, we'll talk more about this type of work because it is very powerful when you can have someone there that has done some of this work and see you and hold you in that space. You're welcome, Steph. I hope this served. So I digress. Let's back up. 1, write down all the benefits of your experience. And when you feel yourself hitting a block, keep going. This is something you can keep coming back to because the more that you train your brain to find those areas of benefits, all of a sudden you might be going through your day and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, because this happened to me. I've now been able to do this in my life, right? Like it's going to keep coming the more you do it. And 2, who is there for you in that moment of challenge? Who was there for you? Could be a thing, it could be an organization, it could be a spiritual entity, it could be a friend, a person. Who is it? Hi, Kellyanne. Thank you. I love my hair too. I washed it. Just saying. We're gonna make a little fun. All right. Let me know in the comments how this served you, because I appreciate and value your feedback and everything that you share with me. It's my goal to turn it into a training like this to bring you more value. And this will be going out on our YouTube page soon. So stay on the lookout for that, because not everyone has Facebook, and I acknowledge that because Facebook can be a war zone sometimes. Let's create a peace zone. Peace zone. And I just want to make sure that y'all are the first to see and hear this content. So I love and appreciate you all so much. I am with you in this work. One more thing, if I have worked with you as a human now or past or maybe in the future, I have Voxer, by the way. So Voxer is an app that we can walkie-talkie back and forth. It's a little bit more separated than text messages and Facebook. And I know a lot of you have questions. You know, after we've had a session, you want to continue the conversation. So I'm on Voxer. It's Mel Krug. Find me, shoot me a message. That's going to be way easier for us to keep this conversation going, because I only have so much time in a day, and so do you. But I want to be attentive, because this is a very powerful conversation and a powerful topic. So you all are awesome. I'm happy that you could tune in and learn how to take your trauma and turn it into triumph. Peace, love, and keep inspiring. Bye.